For the love of fall, Starbucks pumpkin spice lattes and pumpkin cream cold brews are back. Smooth espresso dashed with pumpkin pie spice and velvety whipped cream. Or cold brew topped with pumpkin cream cold foam fit for the season. Your pumpkin awaits. Order today in the Starbucks app.
When the leaves start rustling, the pumpkins start plumping, and the scarecrows start crowing, you heed the call of fall, because you eat, sleep, and drink pumpkin at Dunkin'. So take your pick of pumpkin with delicious muffins, munchkins, and donuts, and pair them with a classic pumpkin spice signature latte or the ultra-smooth pumpkin cream cold brew, topped with pumpkin cream cold foam, all so you can fall harder. America runs on Dunkin'. Price and participation may vary. Limited time offer. Terms apply.
Hey guys, it's Allie. Welcome back to Infertile, the podcast. This is episode 192 called Dr. Lora Shaheen.
Hello, Infertile AF listeners. This is Blair Nelson over at Fab IVF Mama on Instagram. I am the co-founder of Fertility Rally with Allie, and I am here today to invite you to our 5th Fertility Rally Live happening virtually October 22nd. Fertility Rally Live is an event that we host each fall and spring, specifically for the infertility community to educate and inspire you all on your own unique paths to becoming parents or not. And what you can expect at Fertility Rally Live is a keynote speaker, 2 panels, 12 different breakout sessions, an afternoon reset, and of course, we will end the day with a happy hour like we love to do over at the rally. So, exciting news. For the first time ever, we are offering this event to anyone and everyone who is interested for free. We are so excited to be able to do this for our community. So if you would like to join us, you can go claim your ticket at the Fertility Rally Instagram. There is a link in our profile to claim your ticket. It is super easy. The best part about Fertility Rally Live is that you don't actually have to be there on October 22nd. As you claim your ticket, you will have access to all of the content, which is 8+ hours of support and education starting October 22nd for 30 days. So go claim your ticket today. Go over to the Fertility Rally on Instagram. The link is there in our bio. If you have any questions, reach out to us. We cannot wait to see you there, and we cannot wait to offer this to our community for free. Sending so much love to all of you. Enjoy today's show.
Today's episode is sponsored by PROOV, a women's health company dedicated to providing information and solutions on key fertility hormones so they can reach their goals faster. PROOV founder Amy Beckley, PhD, invented the first and only FDA-cleared PDG test after her own battle with infertility. When she learned that her 7 miscarriages and 2 rounds of IVF could have been prevented by an inexpensive progesterone supplement, she set out to help other women better understand the success of their ovulation from home. PROOV's newest kit, Complete, allows women to measure all 4 key cycle hormones that impact conception from the comfort of home so they can get pregnant faster. With just 1 test kit, you can better understand ovarian reserve, identify up to 6 fertile days, and check for successful ovulation. And now the free PROOV Insight app takes your hormone knowledge one step further by providing numeric hormone levels, info about what they mean, and personalized action plans to help you reach your fertility goals faster. That's not all, guys. PROOV also offers an entire suite of at-home hormone tests and hormone-supporting products to empower you with the right information on your journey. Okay, so you know I love female-founded companies and products that can truly benefit anybody battling infertility. So definitely check out PROOV. It's spelled P-R-O-O-V. You can go to PROOVtest.com, PROOVtest.com, and you can enter the code ALLIE25 and you'll get 25% off your first PROOV order of $25 or more. Again, Infertile AF listeners are getting a special discount code, so go to PROOVtest.com, PROOVtest.com, enter the code ALLIE25, ALI25, and you'll get 25% off your first PROOV order of $25 or more. Thanks, PROOV. Okay, guys, I'm so excited about my guest today. Dr. Lora Shaheen has been a friend of the podcast and a friend of Fertility Rally since we launched, and she is just an incredible, incredible woman. She's a reproductive endocrinologist who is all about educating and supporting people in their fertility journeys, and she actually has a fertility journey of her own that she's going to talk about as well. But you guys might know her from Instagram at Dr. Lora Shaheen. You might know her on TikTok. You might know the book she's written or the podcast that she hosts, which is called Baby or Bust. And I am lucky to call her a friend. She is just fucking awesome. She's funny. She's brilliant. She is a great friend to all, and she really, really, truly cares about this community. So without further ado, this is Lora Shahine's infertility story. All right. So Dr. Shahine, it's so good to see you.
Thank you so much, Allie. I'm excited to be here.
You are so amazing for so many reasons. We'll get into all of them. But first of all, you were at our first Fertility Rally Live virtual event. You were one of the speakers, and now we're coming up on our fifth one. And I just want to thank you for being a friend of, this podcast and a fertility rally. And you've just always been so willing to work with other people and share information. And that's kind of what your whole thing is about. So I'm really thrilled to have you on finally.
This community is so incredible and supportive, and you are definitely a part of it. And I appreciate everything that you are doing.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, let's get into it. So I just went down a total wormhole on your social media channels because if people don't know and follow you, I'm sure everybody does anyway already. But if you don't, please follow Dr. Lora Shahine on TikTok, on Instagram. What I love about you're so creative and you're constantly, I'm like, how does she do this? Like real talk. How do you do all these posts? Like, how do you find the time? How do you keep them all different? Like seriously, that's a full-time job in and of itself.
People ask me that a lot. And if I didn't just absolutely love what I was doing, I wouldn't do it. And for me, it's an incredibly creative outlet. And I think now, just because I've done it so long, I really can do a post very quickly. So it's pure joy. It doesn't feel like work. It's just getting a little bit of creativity out. And if I can support and educate one person, I'm trying to build a community just like you that, I wish I had when I was going through fertility. I think we're all looking for incredible content and education and community. And so places like Fertility Rally, places like Fertility Out Loud, hopefully my social media channels and others can be a really great resource, I hope.
Yes. Well, you definitely seem to be having fun, and like the passion for it is obvious. Cause I have to admit, like sometimes when I have to do a reel or something, I'm like, grandma doesn't know how to do a reel. Like I'll have to like Google, try to find some set. Like it is kind of work for me. And I'm just like not naturally good at it. So whenever I watch something that you're doing and that's like, you're clearly having fun, I'm like, oh, what's her secret? What's her MO?
Oh gosh. Well, I remember my very first TikTok because it was the ASRM October 2019. And I was in Natalie Crawford's hotel room. We were getting ready to go do an Instagram live with a bunch of the docs that are active on social media.
Yep.
And I was like, Natalie, have you heard about this thing called TikTok? Apparently like a bunch of kids dance on it. It took me 2.5 hours to do my first TikTok because this was pre-YouTube video.
Right.
And you just have to forget perfection, and you just have to put yourself out there and be, willing to fail, right? Or it's not failure, but like be willing to be silly. And so I just know you're doing a great job.
Well, thank you. In all seriousness though, how has the social media changed like the way that you do your job and the way that you interact with your patients? I'm sure people have sought you out because they know of you on social media and they want to be a patient or work with you. So tell me a little bit about the effect that social media has had.
I think it allows for people to find me, but even more importantly, it allows people to connect with me before they even meet me in person. And so I've always really tried to be an educator and also try to really connect with my patients, because that level of trust is invaluable when you're literally handing over your family building to someone. And it's not handing over, it's a partnership. And so I definitely find a lot of people these days have already followed me on Instagram or TikTok and have already gotten to know a little bit of my silly side. They kind of know a lot. They've watched all my, YouTube channel videos, I'm trying to teach them about an embryo transfer. And they're like, oh yeah, I already watched all 3 of your videos.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm good. And so that's that sort of faster doctor-patient relationship. And then I tell, everyone, I'm like, okay, it's luxurious that we have 30 minutes to an hour for these fertility consults, but I want to talk to you for 8 hours. So I can't do that. So that's why I have all this content, the podcast, Baby or Bust, or the YouTube channel, so that people can go and figure out nutrition and fertility and, fitness and fertility, because I can't do it all in one visit.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's so cool that like you're covering so many different topics in so many different ways, but making everything really like palatable and, like digestible. Because this is so, as we both know, this is so confusing. I mean, you're the expert, you do this for a living, but having been in this world for the past 2 years, I feel like I'm still learning things and I still get confused by this versus that and what's what. So the fact that you're like laying it all out there, I think really has made such a big difference.
Well, I also just think that I just think that when you maybe first start realizing that something's a little bit wrong, like it's just you're not getting pregnant as soon as possible, or it's been a year, it's been, even like 3 to 6 months, you start to think like, wait, this isn't what I thought it was going to be like. It's hard to know where to go first, and it's really intimidating. So a lot of times people, reach out, even just DM me on Instagram and just say, hey, I'm in a different part of the country. How can I find a doctor that's going to help me? And so I always tell people about, the fertility house calls, that website where you can kind of gather information and then kind of be connected with some doctors too. So, just whether it's resolve.org or whether it's Fertility Out Loud, the incredible, website with a lot of like good content. You want people, there's so much content out there. You want people to be able to find a couple of good, solid, evidence-based, supportive resources. And I hope that I can be one of them.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So on this show, as you know, people talk about their own fertility journeys, and I want to hear more about what you do. And I want to talk about your podcast and also about remote working, which is a thing that you're really passionate about. But before we get into all that, can you tell me, I know you've said on your website, you always wanted to be a doctor. Did you always want to be a mother? Did you always want to be a mama?
Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely. I was just talking to a girlfriend about that this weekend, about how I meet a lot of people that are very conflicted about being parents, really wanted to focus on other things in life. And then all of a sudden realized that they're 40 and wait, this is something that I really wanted to do. I wish I had thought about this sooner. And I feel very fortunate that I always wanted to be a mom. I just knew. I remember going around distinctly, one of our last classes in medical school was kind of like, where do you see yourself in 10 years? And everyone's talking about, I want to be the best surgeon. I want to, cure cancer. I want to do all these things. I was one of the last people to go. And I was like, I really want to be a good mom. And you could honestly hear like a pin drop. And I was like, right. Well, I want to be a great doctor too, but like, that's not the only thing that I want to do with my life.
Right.
And that was not a very popular opinion.
Yeah.
Back in the dark ages when I was in medical school. And I just always knew, and I actually feel really fortunate about that. I'm so glad that we have the technology now where people don't have to make a black and white decision. For so long, it's sort of been like, when we are our most fertile, it's like we're focusing on other things, whether it's grad school or building your career, things like that. And now with egg freezing or even embryo freezing and fertility preservation, it's not perfect. It's not a guarantee, but it's an incredible avenue to just keep a few more options open so people don't feel forced to make a decision they aren't sure about.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell me about your story? So when you started to try to have kids, what happened?
Oh, sure. So I had an IUD through my OBGYN residency at the University of California in San Francisco. And I was thrilled to get a fellowship appointment at Stanford. And so I knew kind of what my path was. And I was really nervous about trying before I knew. And in my last year of residency, I took out my IUD, or my chief resident took out my IUD. And then I was like, okay, this is just going to be magic. Like
Right.
that it's just going to happen immediately. And I just kept not getting a period. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not getting a period. What's going on? And I was like, I must have trashed my uterus, right? Like I know the evidence does not support that IUDs hurt fertility, but there's a difference between being a doctor and reviewing evidence of the patient and being a woman who is trying to have a baby. And I just was so nervous. And so I went back to my chief resident. I was like, hey, can I just have some Clomid? Like, just give me something. She's like, Lora, like, let's at least check some labs. Let's kind of figure this out a little bit. And I was like, no, just give me a prescription. Come on. It's the worst. I was the worst patient. And so we checked labs, and sure enough, I had a high prolactin. So prolactin is a hormone that comes from the pituitary gland to actually help with milk letdown or nursing, breastfeeding. And if it's elevated, it can really throw off ovulation. And so she's like, all right, before we just try to, give you Clomid and, do this, like, let's treat the issue. And I was like, oh, okay. And you know what? I honestly never got a period, which is just amazing. So, you ovulate, right, before you get a period. And I just miraculously with my daughter got pregnant as soon as I figured out what was going on and just never had a period. So that was just literally a miracle.
That's so interesting.
But I thought it was so ironic that here I was, I'd matched in reproductive endocrinology, and then I was diagnosed with something that I'm going to diagnose like the rest of my life. And I
that's what I was going to say before is there's so many people in the medical field who do have infertility. And, there's the statistic, I feel like, is it like 1 in 6 or something like that?
So it's okay.
You might know the statistic better
the general population is 1 in 8 couples that are trying to conceive. And the statistic for physicians is 1 in 4.
1 in 4. Okay. Yeah. I knew it was something
absolutely.
So do you think that that's because people are in school for so long and putting off family building, or like, what's your theory on why? Obviously
it's got to be a mixed bag, right? It's got to be a little bit of delayed childbearing, a little bit of incredibly stressful career at the time that you're trying to build your family. It's just got to be a mix of a lot of things. And then also doctors make the worst patients like me. So
it's so funny. Dr. Ruhi Jalani said that same thing when I was interviewing her. She was like, I'm the worst patient. And I was like, but you're like a brilliant doctor. So you're saying the same thing.
I know. Ruhi is the best. Yeah. She is one of the most brilliant people I know. But it's true. And I remember trying for my second, for my son, when I was in fellowship at Stanford, and just thinking like, well, I've got this. Like, I know what I need to do. I just need to, stop trying to conceive because now I'm ready. And then I'll just take my medication to help my prolactin. And it's just going to be easy peasy like the first time. And then it just didn't happen. And just the irony of, again, being a fertility doctor and not being able to get pregnant was just so frustrating.
Yeah. So what happened? What did you do?
Well, the IUIs didn't work. All the testing looked like everything was okay. So I kind of fit this just horrible diagnosis of unexplained secondary infertility. And I see so many of my patients struggle with this because I think I really put off, actively doing something because I just was so convinced that it was just going to happen like it did the first time. So I see people who it's very easy to conceive the first time, really delaying seeking care. And if I could get one message out there, it's like, hey, just kind of check up sooner. So we tried simple treatment. It wasn't successful. And I was so fortunate that IVF resulted in multiple embryos because I sure needed a bunch of transfers. And another thing I can really relate to is just like wanting the whole process to be over. Like I finally got to the point where I was just like, oh my gosh, just transfer 2 embryos because I don't care if I have twins. I just don't want to do another transfer. And my sweet, amazing husband was just like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And honestly, when I finally just sort of surrendered a little bit to the process and just sort of really focused on kind of just taking my meds and doing what my doctors told me. I don't know, but that was the transfer that was finally successful. And I have my sweet son, and I feel very fortunate.
How many transfers did you do?
It was 3.
3. Okay.
And I know I'm so hesitant to really focus so much on my own journey.
Sure.
Because I know I never ever I think when people are trying to comfort other people with things, they often try to interject their own experiences to say like, oh, I understand exactly what you're going through. And I see my patients that have done, 6 transfers and 10 transfers. And so anything more than one just feels awful. But
I think it all feels awful. And, we always say it's not the pain Olympics. It's not like, I have people who want to be on the podcast, but they're like, my story's not as dramatic as some of the other ones. And I'm like, that doesn't matter. It's not like who has the most drama or who's gone through them. I mean, anybody that has to go down this road, whether it's one transfer, IUI, whatever it is, deciding not to seek treatment, it all sucks. It just all sucks. So it's like, I think everybody's story is valid.
Yeah, I agree. I know. Yeah. And there's a lot of people that feel nervous about sharing the fact that they're having secondary infertility, meaning trying for a baby after they've had a baby in the past.
Me. I had secondary infertility. My daughter I had with no issues. And then, like you said before, I didn't think there was going to be an issue. So we waited a couple years before I started trying again. And then at that point I was like 37, going on 38. And, I didn't seek treatment, like you were saying, until 4 miscarriages later. And then I was like, something's wrong. Something's going on. So
yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry that you had that journey.
But I'm very, very lucky that IVF did work for me. And now I have my son as well. So it was a journey. But again, I'm just saying that to say that secondary infertility is its own kind of bag of craziness. And, there's guilt involved, and there's people, saying like, but you already have one kid. What are you doing? Why are you putting yourself through this? And it's hard to explain to people that aren't in it, I don't know if you felt that way.
When the leaves start rustling, the pumpkins start plumping, and the scarecrows start crowing, you heed the call of fall, because you eat, sleep, and drink pumpkin at Dunkin'. So take your pick of pumpkin with delicious muffins, munchkins, and donuts, and pair them with a classic pumpkin spice signature latte or the ultra smooth pumpkin cream cold brew, topped with pumpkin cream cold foam. All so you can fall harder. America runs on Dunkin'. Price and participation may vary. Limited time offer. Terms apply.
Reintroducing the Iced Apple Crisp Oat Milk Macchiato from Starbucks. Now with Starbucks Blonde Espresso and Oat Milk. Layered with flavors of apple, cinnamon, and brown sugar. And topped with a spiced apple drizzle. Welcome back, fall. Order today with the Starbucks app.
Well, another weird thing is that, the question started at my daughter's first birthday. I very much remember like, oh, when are you going to have another? And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So thankful that I have one. Can I just be a little happy? And then another weird thing that I think about is it's so hard to be a mom to a baby and then be trying for another one, because you are around people with their second and their third kids, and you're going to birthday parties and you're going to the playground and you're doing the gym classes or all those things. And you're just like, you can't get away from it. And it's its own kind of hell.
It is. Totally. Absolutely. I remember that very vividly. Yeah, exactly. Well, let's talk about your podcast, which is incredible. It's called Baby or Bust. You recently interviewed Louise Brown. So tell everybody, I don't want to give anything away because we want them to listen to your episode, but can you just give me like a really sneak peek, tell everybody who she is in case people don't know.
Oh my gosh. Well, you might be doing a podcast for the same reason that I am. I just think of it as an incredible excuse to talk to people.
Totally.
And I'm like, I'm
cat's
like,
out of the bag.
I'm like, do you want to just have a chat? And people are like, no, I don't want to talk to you on a Sunday night at 7 p.m. I'm like, oh, but I have a podcast. So will you talk to me now? And they're like, oh, okay. And so
you've met the coolest people.
Oh, no question.
Yeah. It's been
like
so awesome. Well, like you, back at you, but it's been so awesome. I can't.
Yeah. What a great excuse. I mean, this season has been so fun. So, Louise Brown is the very first IVF baby born on July 25th, 1978. And I remember learning about her in middle school science class and seeing a picture of her in my textbook.
See, that's so interesting that you say that, and not to interrupt, sorry, but I didn't learn anything about fertility in middle school. So good for you that you did. Like when I saw you say that on your Instagram, and I was like, wow, she learned about that in middle school. That's very cool.
It is really cool. Yeah. And I do feel like, and I was born not too much longer after her. And so I've kind of seen her grow up a little bit. And I remember, when she had her 20th birthday and her 30th birthday, and then her 40th birthday was just huge. She came to ASRM, which is our national fertility conference. And, I got to meet her. I was teasing her today. I was like, I think I'm the only person that didn't take a selfie with you. I'm like, I wish she's so sweet. And she's really taken such an extraordinary birth of it wasn't her choice, and she could absolutely just, shy away from it, but she's really used it as a tool for advocacy, and really comes from pretty humble background, including her parents. And she feels that the doctors that helped her, Dr. Steptoe, and then the biologist, Robert Edwards, were really doing this to help everyone. And that she really feels grounded in that. And she's trying to advocate for everyone who needs it to have access to care. So we really talked a lot about that, how different it is in the UK, which is where she is, and the United States. But yet just the whole, stigma, lack of funding for a disease that could really benefit from, a medical intervention. And it's just a great conversation.
Yeah. And she was pretty controversial, right? When she was born, that was not it, like you said, in your social media, it was polarizing.
Absolutely. So she got her first marriage proposal when she was 5 days old. And then the very next week, she got a hate mail package from San Francisco with a broken test tube.
Oh my God.
In it, and just test tube baby kind of reference. So just, really controversial and polarizing, but yet she's like, there's much more good in the world than bad. Right. And she's like, that's what I'm trying to focus on.
Oh, I love that. Well, so how would you say, having gone through fertility stuff yourself, how has that made you a better interviewer and a better, doctor? Do you feel like you have more empathy towards the people that you talk to, having gone through something yourself?
Yeah, I think that there are amazing physicians in every field that can be incredible physicians without actually going through the process. But I do think that I think about things a little bit differently. I might feel it a little bit in a different way. And I don't wear a t-shirt and tell every one of my patients oh, I did IVF too, but
you don't.
I guess if they see me on Instagram, they'd figure it out. But I can kind of sometimes connect with someone in a way that just sort of says this can really happen to anyone. And especially when people are worried about long-term effects of IVF or birth defects or things like that. I say, listen, if I really thought I was hurting someone, I wouldn't do this and help people build families in this way. And I wouldn't have my own little IVF baby at home. And you can just kind of see the worry just kind of melt away a little bit. Yeah.
Well, speaking of IVF, one of the things that you are speaking out about recently, which I think is really interesting, is working remotely and how that can affect somebody going through treatment, IVF or whatever they're going through. Can we talk about that a little bit? First of all, why is that so important to you right now? Is it because most people are in some capacity working remotely?
Yeah, I think I'm just fascinated at how the pandemic and quarantine and now coming out of it has really impacted all aspects of life, and specifically for fertility. I mean, back in 2020, I was sometimes the only person some people who were freezing eggs, would talk to. They're sitting in a, their little apartment in Capitol Hill, which is a couple blocks away from our clinic here in Seattle. And, they're just, working remotely. And we were the only opportunity for them to get out of the house was to come get their ultrasound. I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I wish we could monitor your ovaries in a different way. And they're like, oh no, I'm so excited just to see someone.
We haven't talked about anybody in 2 weeks.
Exactly. And so that was a real extreme. And thank goodness we're out of those dark times.
Yes. Did you guys have to cancel a lot of cycles and stuff at that point?
We had about a 4 to 6 week period where we stopped any new cycles. We finished, and then we did some cancer patients that, really needed. The clinic didn't close, but we just really shut things down in order to get PPE, get our protocols in line. I remember talking to doctors in Wuhan, China, over Zoom, all the doctors in the country were just trying to help each other figure out how to, give safe IVF care. Not that it was elective. It's absolutely not elective. Time is essential, but like, okay, just give me like 4 to 6 weeks to like make sure my team is safe and my patients are safe.
So smart. Yeah.
And then a thing that patients have always had a real tough time when they're doing the IVF cycle is it's a pretty intense 2 weeks. And if they aren't able to, share with their team at work why they need to have 5 doctor's appointments in the span of about 2 weeks, right? Like that's an average.
Right.
Then, how many dental appointments can you come up with, right?
Totally.
And so I think the best thing is to build that ally and be able to share with someone at work. You'll be surprised how many people are like, oh, I did that too. But if you, in the setting of the remote work, it's at least for my patients that are doing a lot of software. So again, I'm in Seattle, so a lot of people are in the tech field. It's much less stressful because they can just schedule meetings around their appointments.
Totally.
So I do see that people who might have been putting things off for a little while because they just didn't see how they could do it with travel or all those type of things have really decided to do fertility treatment because they finally found some space to do it. And so that's a good thing. It's a really good thing. One thing that's hard is just being remote and not really connecting with friends and things is trying to find resources to sort of help figure out where you're going to go, or even if you have the time to do it, how you're going to learn about those things. And so I do see people, the use of social media has gone up astronomically, the use of really good websites. People are using that and really hungry for content that can help guide them in the right direction. So that's changed too.
Right. Yeah. When we first started, we were going to do like big in-person events and stuff. And then we had to switch to virtual, which actually ended up being a blessing because for like Fertility Rally Live, we're able to reach people globally. So I can see, kind of both sides of it, how it's got its pros and cons, but it's pretty cool now to be able to do stuff. And I'm sure you would agree, like ASRM and doing things more in person now and all that stuff.
Yeah, I will tell you, patients love the telemedicine visits. Just because they really, you can have, if you do have a partner, you and your partner can be in 2 different places and just kind of, there's a lot of times people kind of come out of wherever they're working and just take the telemedicine visit in the car. And
it's so much more efficient in so many ways,
so much more,
not having to drive to the appointment, find parking, go in, wait in the waiting room, all that stuff.
Exactly. I miss that personal connection.
Right.
Sometimes the first time I'm seeing my patients in person is for, an ultrasound, but it is, again, I think that there's pros and cons. And I imagine that we're not going to, I imagine it'll be hybrid, just how a lot of things are sort of hybrid. I think we're still seeing people in person, of course, for things that we have to, but the consults are able to be over telemedicine and patients just love it.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Before we wrap, because I know you're so busy and you have to go do a million things and you have to make more TikToks. If somebody's listening and they're new to this world, can you give just like 2 or 3 really quick bits of advice about just navigating this overwhelming world of infertility? What do you tell like new patients or just new people that you talk to that are like, I don't even know where to start?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I think it's important to realize that they are not alone. There's this incredible fertility community, whether you find it on social media or resolve.org is a great way to find connections with people. And, they have Zoom visits where it's like group connections and kind of group counseling. That's an incredible resource. And then I think it's important to educate yourself a little bit about fertility because we do not learn this very well in health class. And there's so many people that don't know how the menstrual cycle works. And I was one of them until I learned it in OBGYN residency, right? Like that, there's nothing, and people feel guilty about it, but finding resources, again, like, Fertility Out Loud, my social media, resolve.org, these are great resources to go to and read, and be careful what you read online. When someone is really trying to sell certainty, like, you will get pregnant if you do these 5 things or take this supplement or take my class. It's like, you want to find resources that are more like you can feel that they're really trying to educate and support you, not trying to actively sell you something. And there is a difference, and people can get it. So you're not alone. Find the right resources, and then just do not be afraid to advocate for your care and ask for questions. If you don't find that right physician, there are resources, ASRM has great lists, Fertility, House Calls has great lists of doctors. Did I say ASRM?
Yeah, you did.
Okay, maybe I'll say that again. So ASRM has a great list of physicians. Resolve.org has a great list of physicians, and Fertility, House Calls. These are all great places to find doctors that really focus on fertility. A lot of people stick with their general practitioner or their general OBGYN for a little bit too long, and they really wish that they'd seen a specialist sooner.
Yeah. I love that what you said earlier about it being a partnership, a team, like you want to work with these patients. So there's a lot of people that I talk to that are like, my doctor, I'm just a number. I've never even met my doctor. And I'm always like, it doesn't have to be like that. There's amazing people like Dr. Lora Shaheen that do want to make it a partnership and a team. So follow her on Instagram, everybody. It's Dr. Lora, Lora Shaheen. Follow her on TikTok if you want to go down like a 4-hour wormhole. Like I did. Listen to Baby or Bust. What else? What if people want to work with you?
Gosh, thank you. I mean,
course.
I first got into this because I wrote books on fertility. So I have Planting the Seeds of Pregnancy, which is Eastern and Western approaches to care. Not Broken, an approachable guide to miscarriage. Love that. Books and website, any media, and then definitely listen to the podcast. I love talking to people, and I learned so much from just doing Baby or Bust. It's a true joy.
It is so good. Well, thank you for taking the time, and hopefully we'll see you in person soon. That would be amazing.
That would be amazing. Thank you so much, Allie. It's just such a joy.
All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. And Dr. Shaheen, you are just amazing. I can't say enough good things about you. Guys, definitely follow her on Instagram. It's Dr. Lora, Lora Shaheen, and follow her TikToks too. They're really incredible. So also, I wanted to remind you guys that Fertility Rally Live, our 5th one, it's totally, completely free. It's happening this Saturday, October 22nd. It's all virtual. You can watch the replay if you can't make it live, but we have 8 hours of talks, and we have poured our hearts into this content to bring you guys everything and anything we could think of. It's different from all of our last 4. We're talking about inside the IVF lab of the future. We're talking about unfucking your friendships and relationships while navigating infertility. We talk to an embryologist. We talk about treatment costs. We talk to a surrogacy lawyer, talking about Roe v. Wade, talking about holistic fertility, all the things. We also have a happy hour at the end of the day, which is absolutely incredible. Prizes all day long, giveaways from fertility-friendly brands, and just interactive chat with your fellow TTC sisters. So please join us. Link is in my bio, and check out Fertility Rally on Instagram for even more. We really, really hope to see you guys there. We want as many people as possible to come and enjoy this content we've put together and walk away feeling educated and inspired and supported. So thank you guys. Hope to see you there, and thank you for listening.
When the leaves start rustling, the pumpkins start plumping, and the scarecrows start crowing, you heed the call of fall, because you eat, sleep, and drink pumpkin at Dunkin'. So take your pick of pumpkin with delicious muffins, munchkins, and donuts, and pair them with a classic pumpkin spice signature latte or the ultra-smooth pumpkin cream cold brew, topped with pumpkin cream cold foam, all so you can fall harder. America runs on Dunkin'. Price and participation may vary. Limited time offer. Terms apply.